Slepsky!
Hey, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's the only podcast where I, Joe Slepsky, watch every episode of G.I. Joe in sequential order and comment on it Mystery Science style, always with a friend, always with a guest. Actually, not always. Sometimes I do a solo. That's a lie. I just lied to my listeners for the first time, Julius. But this week, I'm excited because I have a special guest. It's a friend from out here in California. He has been clamoring to get on the show for this specific episode.
This is the episode.
Because he loves this episode, and so I was so happy to get you.
It's an all Cobra episode.
It really is. I'm so happy to get you on here as part of the Serpentor crew. We're getting together to watch part 5 next week. It's going to be a jamboree of all
the Serpentor time.
Exactly, all the Serpentor people. So let me introduce today's guest.
Did you ever have the Serpentor toy?
Let me introduce you first, mister. I did have. In fact, I still do. We can bust it out. I'll bust it out. We'll have it as we watch the show. I'll have it sitting on here so we can comment on Serpentor.
Okay.
So Julius Pantera is in his words, he's a bon vivant. He is a man about town. He's a carnival act, and he's a rube. He's also
back and forth.
He's also a very talented photographer, and I say that having seen a lot of your work. You've shot a lot of the shows and stuff that we've done.
Thank you.
You're a very talented photographer, camera operator out here in California, and he is here with us today, Mr. Julius Pantera. Welcome to Joe on Joe.
I feel honored to be on the show.
And we get to talk about G.I. Joe.
Dick Gautier.
Oh.
Dick Gautier.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show, man. We were at an event or something hanging out, and I was talking about Serpentor was on his way, and you looked at me and go, I need to be there for part 4.
Yes.
That was it. That was the conversation.
Yeah, because that's the best one. It's the perfect mix of everything.
And I hadn't even, at that point, actually gone through my rewatch yet, so it was foggy as to exactly what part 4 was all about. And I was like, why is he so in love with part 4? Like, I love the Serpentor stuff.
Yeah.
But you were zeroed in.
Well, because it's all Cobra.
Okay.
And it has this 1950s mad scientist feel.
Totally.
And then, of course, the muck monster, which,
is amazing. Who looks a little bit like the Heap.
Yeah.
You remember the Heap?
Yeah, I remember the Heap.
Yeah, like the man.
I remember the Heap.
Yeah. Also looks a little bit like how the Man Thing was drawn on the cover of Marvel 2-in-1 issue number 1. Just throwing that out there.
I have to see that.
Kids can reference that. That's in my head. That's what I'm seeing when I see. I'm also actually seeing quite a bit.
Do
you read Astro City?
Yes. Do
you know?
It's been a while.
It's the member of the Fantastic Four version from Busey.
Yeah, the something. I forgot the name of the family.
The first family, I think.
Yes, the first family.
Their version of the Thing.
Yeah, they do have a version.
Yeah, looks like this monster.
Really?
Oh, totally.
It's been a while since I read the books. I love. It was a great book.
Great. Yeah. So Julius,
pick up Astro City, boys and girls.
Julius, you live in LA now. You said you were born in New Jersey.
I was born in Secaucus, New Jersey.
Secaucus, shout out! And then you said you kind of cut your teeth in New Orleans.
I was,
when was that? Childhood or
no? It was like later on. I grew up in Jersey. I went back and forth in New York just to hang out, but it was like. And I just wanted to get the hell out of New Jersey.
So you listened to Bruce Springsteen's advice,
pretty much,
and got out.
When I finally was able to go, I got out, and it's like every now and then I just think, man, I should have like ran away earlier and gone to live in New Orleans.
Yeah, you're a Springsteen song come to life. And how long were you in New Orleans?
About 6 years. I went there, the explanation was I went to school, but really I just wanted to go to New Orleans.
Well, who doesn't want to go to New Orleans? I'm on record. We've got a big New Orleans connection on the show.
Hello.
Multiple guests have
Bon temps brûlé.
Yeah, and so I'm on record. I love New Orleans. So where were you living when you had your G.I. Joe experience? Like when you were
in Jersey.
You were in Jersey.
Oh yeah, I was a big fan of the cartoon. I didn't even know about the. I knew about the comic book, but I didn't know like the differences.
So now you're a bigger fan of the comics, but
I still love the TV show.
Sure,
obviously. But
so you watched it. So you watched it growing up.
Oh, I watched it religiously. We all watched it.
Did you have the toys?
No, I had He-Man figures. By the time G.I. Joe was like expansive.
Right.
I already had too many He-Man, so I was like, I couldn't
It was,
start.
yeah.
You know, it was like one of those things.
It
So
was.
it was a strange.
It was very much. I think for most people that I know, growing up, and most parents had a budget, or at least you had a mental budget, so you could kind of focus on one toy line.
Yeah, it was strange because I went from He-Man,
Mm-hmm.
and then after they stopped He-Man, I was like, I really had nothing. I had Atari and Nintendo, but then I started buying Ninja Turtles, so I totally missed out on G.I. Joe. But I loved I was like, I knew one kid who had like all the later on G.I. Joes, but it's still not the original G.I. Joe. And so for me, it's like I can't really buy G.I. Joe because these are characters I don't know. Like I wanted like Snake Eyes, Cobra Commander.
Yeah, but at the point they were at in the later runs,
I think it was like 86.
The characters were too crazy. They weren't the core ones that you were watching.
Ninja Force,
Space
Command.
For me, when I remember seeing Ninja Force on the stands, and that was absolutely when I was still playing Joe, I was still collecting Joe. I believe I put it away the summer before I went. I'm pretty positive it was the summer before I went into high school.
Yeah,
and that's when I put him away. I don't think I had been playing with him much, but I still kind of had him out. I was like, I didn't want to let it go,
Do you still have the cards, or did you just open them up?
The cards?
Yeah,
yeah. I don't have all of them, but I've got a big stack.
So you would cut it?
Oh yeah. They're sitting in the other room. I'll get that. And I'll bring that with Serpentor in here.
Oh.
And it was like, I remember, making a ritual out of it. Like I did one big final play battle. I was probably 13 or 12 or something at the time. One of the distinct things I remember of that year. And maybe if we looked at the release dates, this was wrong. But I absolutely remember seeing Ninja Force on the shelves and saying to myself, "I think I'm too old for this," because it just was like there was neon and it was just.
Yeah,
I was like, you know what? I think it's time to go.
Yeah,
I love it, and I've read the comic, and I still watch the cartoon, but I was like,
weren't they doing like glow in the dark figures and all that stuff? Just like weird stuff.
Yeah, it was just getting really sci-fi and
then
fantasy.
And then like all of a sudden, it's like, by that time I was paying attention to it, but it's like, I was like, by this time I'm just reading comic books. I haven't picked up the G.I. Joe comic books yet.
Okay.
But it just I was. But it's like, it's like I said, it's like, what? Maybe it's a good thing I never did pick up G.I. Joe because now it's just like it's so ridiculous.
Well, what's fun though, going back and doing this and researching and just learning more, and I'm not digging in and becoming an encyclopedia because there's some really great, really amazing, great Joe fans out there that really know all this stuff.
I've seen some of them. Yeah,
there was a core. I don't want to slam the toy line because there always was, and this is what I've seen and looking back, going, oh, and this year they did this, or in that year they did that. There was always a core group of actual real Joes that would have stayed in, that would have fit well in the original group.
Yeah,
it's just that they were outnumbered slowly by the sillier, the sillier, the crazier. They kind of outnumbered and flashied it, but when you look closer, like, oh wow, they were still doing a SWAT specialist, and they were doing this kind of specialist and that kind of specialist, and then they were doing ninjas and hybrid Cobra soldiers and things like that.
Like there's some stories that Larry Hama, having to do with the comic books, like Larry Hama, when he was given
he's given Battle Force 2000. He purposely killed half of them.
He would purposely sabotage. He's like, what is this ridiculous crap?
If memory serves, I think half of Battle Force 2000 died on the first mission, or issue number 2 or something. He wrote them out really quickly.
Is he? I guess in comic books you could get away with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I would think that he contributed so much to what that toy line was that the guys in charge would have given him the leeway. If he said, "Hey, I'll put him in the comic," but
he pretty much
I don't want to use him.
Well, in terms of characters and story wise, he created G.I. Joe.
He wrote everything.
No, but the whole concept was that G.I. Joe was initially based on his idea of a reworked Shield.
Correct. Yeah. He had character designs and that and really when you look at those character designs, they actually resemble the long range recon patrol that he ended up bestowing on Snake Eyes in the comic book.
Yeah.
So a lot of those dudes, he kept that idea, and that was the LRRP that he was later. Correct. Yeah.
Snake Eyes. I have to make this. It's like this is why I like the comic book more than the cartoon now. Snake Eyes is just too cool of a character. And then when I see Snake Eyes on the cartoon, it's like, and then the comic book.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this a lot on Joe and Joe. He's always will be. He's my favorite but he's my favorite because of the comic book, not because of what they give him on the show. Because on the show, it's hard. He's a mute dude with no face.
But he did have a good. He did have a good arc in that initial
the miniseries with him and Shipwreck. No.
The one where he.
It's when he's trapped with Duke.
No,
when he gets kidnapped with Duke.
No. The matter
right when he gets
and he's radiated and all. That's a great story arc.
Great arc. 100%. Like I'm like, well, what about this awesome time? Yeah. What about that awesome time? Yeah. No, this other awesome time.
Yeah, no,
I totally agree with you. But on the day-to-day average shows, he just shows up usually as like a weapon. You know, like in a battle, he shows up to punch someone and then he's gone. There's never like I would give anything to see a Snake Eyes centric episode where like they really dug in and were like,
and that's why I like G.I. Joe.
This is Snake Eyes, you know, and that's what they never did.
That's why I like G.I. Joe Resolute, that cartoon web series that like was written by Warren Ellis, and also Renegades.
Yeah, the newer stuff. Yeah, the newer stuff's cool. I do think this show is going to cover that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, eventually, once we run out of this and all that.
I'm kind of angry that they ended Renegades. I would have loved to seen that.
Sadly, cartoons are about toys, and obviously this one heavily is about
toys.
Oh yeah,
it made me want to buy the toys.
These days, we've heard so many. We've heard of so many really good cartoon shows that get canceled because there's not enough toys selling to support it. You know, so it's not like that show itself was not worthy of carrying on or whatever. It's just that kids aren't. I would think it might have something to do with.
Do kids still buy like the newer G.I. Joe stuff?
No, well, not. I mean, there isn't a ton of really new stuff. They do a lot of stuff for collectors.
Yeah, it's like the He-Man, the new He-Man
and it's
figures.
A lot of anniversary stuff to get the old R dollars, like the old man dollars. It honestly might really have something a lot to do with the fact that we've been in military actions for the last 17 years. Right,
but like,
close 16 years. Yeah, 2001.
But when G.I. Joe came out, it was still after you had Vietnam and
but we were out. But we were out of that. We were out of Vietnam for close to it was like 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah, we were about
82.
Yeah, we were out of Vietnam for about 8 years, and there was no major military. And if you look at the rise in popularity of Joe, super popular. Yeah, they may have gone a little silly, but then we went into the Gulf War.
Yeah,
and that's kind of ties in with when G.I. Joe lost its popularity, right?
Yeah.
Then they tried to do revivals of the '90s, and those revivals
Sergeant Savage.
Yeah.
Oh, what a blasphemy!
They were garbage. And then there was one revival that I don't think it was the Sergeant Savage stuff, but it was. Was it G.I. Joe Extreme?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Because I have the comic books of them, and they're not. It's not Joe and Cobra. It's like Joe and Claw or something.
Yeah.
We might cover that. I've been researching it.
It's a weird comic book.
Yeah, I've been researching it.
Did Frank Miller create that one, or did he just get hired?
No, but he may have done some of the covers because it came out through Dark Horse. And Frank did a ton of stuff for Dark Horse, so he may have been on the covers for that. You know what? I think he was on the covers for that.
Yeah, I remember. It was a figure of a soldier.
Yeah, and the flag draped around him.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a very iconic.
It is. The comics are terrible, though. There were 2 miniseries. This is the stuff I do remember. There were 2 miniseries. I think it was called Claw. It was weird because it was almost like it was the story, but it wasn't. It was like and we will cover this on an episode, so I don't want to get too deep into it now. But like,
stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen.
The leader had a mask, actually almost looked like Darklon, which I don't know if you remember Darklon from the show. He was a really later enemy.
Was that the DIC show?
He was on the DIC show.
That's why.
And they used him in the comic actually a lot because he kind of supplanted Destro as people liked Destro a little more. You needed someone to be more evil.
Yeah.
But he kind of had a Darklonish mask. But I'm like, if you're gonna do a bad guy with a full face mask, why didn't you just do Cobra? Like just. Do something different. Yeah. And it was terrible. So we'll table that for now because I need to do a bit more research on the
that's
stream.
Yeah.
But those weren't great revivals, so I don't see that lighting up the toy aisles.
Yeah.
And then now we've been in military conflicts.
I never figured that out. I just
if you're a kid, you got real. There's real military stuff happening, and so is it that?
It's the Watchmen explanation. Like in the world of heroes, vigilantes, you don't have those those comics.
You have pirate comics. Yeah, honestly. So in a world of constant military action, now during the Vietnam War, G.I. Joe was around, but he was more of an adventure team. He wasn't a soldier at that
action
point.
Team.
Yeah, adventure team, I think it was.
Yeah, it was. I remember as a kid when I was like babysat.
Yeah.
And like the babysitter, she was like this old lady, but she had like her kids. They were grown up. It was the old set, like what were they, 12-inch tall dolls?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was weird.
So and this is listen, I'm no psychologist. But I've been thinking about this a lot lately, actually, because I've been talking to some people about it, and it's weird that it kind of ebbs and flows with real military action. And it might be because this show fetishizes it a little bit.
Oh, it does.
It does. It does. But I mean, with I always believe it has a positive message and a message of hey, it's better to solve it through peace and last resort and all that. But when the popularity of a project that might fetishize it, when you're then faced every night on the news with this is the real world post 9/11 and all that stuff. I kind of can see why it's not hugely popular.
You can't really sell a toy line where like the enemy is like in the start of the G.I. Joe
terrorists.
It's an evil terrororist organization. You
right.
can't you can't say terrorist organization.
No, you can't. I don't think that. I would think I mean I think anytime it's been that slogan's been used, sometimes you'll see it pop up on in whatever media or promotional stuff. It's like Cobra military organization or something like that.
Evil military.
Yeah, evil. Like they don't. Right. So how do you deal with terrorism?
Yeah.
They were terrorists, but
they do terrorize. They like the episode where like they use all those restaurants. Where they put the
red rocket
warheads,
with roadblocks.
That's terror. That is terrorism. He was threatening to unleash Armageddon.
100% right. So I think that's got something to do with hurting the brand a little bit.
Can I just say this about that plan? Why did he have to show the map? Wasn't that just pure hubris on the part?
Yeah, Well, no, that was one of the moments. It wasn't that he showed it.
Well, he did.
He didn't show them the map, did he?
He did in the background, and then
in the background, but he didn't point it out. It just was in the background of his public.
I think he made like a passing wave of it.
I thought. If memories, it's been a while now. I'm watching these it's all blending in my brain. Blur. I thought it was one of those things where they saw it. They saw his map of attack behind him on camera. He didn't point it out, but they saw it and they said, "Hey, that matches this red rocket chain."
The red rocket chains.
Yeah. But that is another in the long line of moments of hubris for Cobra Commander, where if he did not reach out and gloat to the Joes, like every plan he has, he'll call the Joes up, be like, "Guess what I'm up to?"
Yeah.
And then they look at it and they figure it out, whether it's the map behind them or the one with the dreadnoughts where they see the human hand when the dreadnoughts are posing as aliens. There's always something in the broadcast that a Joe is like, "Come on, dude!
Really?
Like, I know where he is."
Or the later on episode of like the Cobra telethon.
Oh yeah, the Cobra telethon, right? Like, there's always something where Cobra Commander shoots himself in the foot, which is why it's important, bringing it back to Serpentor, that Dr. Mindbender's like, we need a new leader, because this guy's a chump.
But the thing is, didn't Serpentor screw up a lot more times, like in bigger ways?
Well, before we project into the future, because I'm not there yet.
Okay.
And honestly,
nope.
I'm watching. We got to watch it. We got to watch on week.
I'm just going by what I remember watching.
Right. I mean, certainly, yeah. It's not like all of a sudden they started winning a lot of battles, but he inspired confidence in his troops.
That's true.
He wasn't yelling retreat all the time.
Yeah, that's true. You got to give him that. You got to give him credit on that.
And eventually Serpentor's creation leads to Cobra La.
Oh, Buzz Dixon hates that. If you don't know who Buzz Dixon is, he's the story consultant.
Yeah.
And
we talked about him on the show.
And he was forced to do this miniseries. Like, did you ever go through like the whole discussion about like of what happened? Yeah, he came up with the story, which was going to be the explanation of the origin of Cobra, and he always wanted to say, it's like, okay, what is it that Cobra actually believes?
Right.
And so he came up with this concept called the most dangerous man in the world, and the story would have gone where G.I. Joe picks up communiques from Cobra, like all these Cobra agents are getting these messages.
Yeah.
cancel everything you're doing, report back to base or something, And G.I. Joe's like wondering what the hell's happening. And then it turns out that Cobra is looking for this escapee who turns out to be the inspiration for Cobra Commander to create Cobra. Like how it started. It was supposed to be like a like this Nietzschean order.
Okay.
And
so this, and actually what you're describing, we'll button that for now, because what you're describing, he wrote up in a Amazon Kindle novel, an e-novel, as the young kids like to say. It's called The Most Dangerous Man on Most Dangerous Man on Earth, or
The Most Dangerous Man on Earth,
or something like that.
It's Buzz Dixon.
Yeah. It's Buzz Dixon. You should seek it out. I do plan on covering that because I bought it.
Yeah.
I do plan on covering that, doing something fun with that on one of these episodes. Had I looked in a crystal ball and known we were talking about it, we would have done it right now. But you know what?
Yeah. No.
You know what? Maybe we'll bring it up next week a little bit.
Yeah. If not, like after, like you read it by the time of the movie, because that leads to the whole.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. We're gonna get to it before then. Yeah, there's actually a ton of G.I. Joe ebooks out there. I can't vouch for how good some of them are or are not, but if you do a search, if you're unaware of this, man, go on Amazon and do a search for G.I. Joe ebooks, and you can expand your Joe knowledge. Well, with that, we're going to expand our Joe knowledge, Julius.
Arise, Serpentor,
arise. Serpentor, arise.
Arise,
Part
my
4.
creation.
It's right here. Remember, if you're out there, you're on social media, you can find me at Joe on Joe Pod. You can send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. We'll have you on the show. We do remote guests all the time. And Julius, if we want to find you, they can just search for you on Facebook.
You can find me on Facebook.
You're a heavy Facebook user. You're politically minded. You got some opinions you throw out there, right?
Yeah. I get accused of like from everyone. Yesterday I was attacked by a Nazi.
Okay. Well, with that, we're going to get into the show. So here we go with Arise, Serpentor. Arise, Part 4. So here we go. Part 4 opens up. And Julius, you're long on some thoughts on the Conquest X-30.
Yeah. Is that actually accurate? Scientifically accurate? Can a jet fly with the wings that reversed?
Well, you use the word scientifically accurate. So I'm going to say, listen, if the human centipede is 100% scientifically accurate, then the Conquest X-30 is 100% scientifically accurate.
I think the human centipede can be possible.
I always thought as a kid, because it's a cool looking design, like for sure.
No, it's
and
a great
it was a
design.
fun toy because it was the way they had those
with the shark face.
Yeah, with the shark face on it, and then the way, just the size and everything, you could put your hand, and I got big hands, but you could just put your hand on the back of it, and then you could navigate the whole plane. You know what I mean? Where like the Sky Striker usually took two hands to do. The Conquest was a big plane, but you could just use one hand to kind of maneuver it around. Yeah, so we're going to get a recap right now, so let's listen in and see what happened.
To replace Cobra Commander with a new leader, the Cobra Emperor, cloned from the DNA of long-dead conquerors. Dr. Mindbender then raided the tombs of Napoleon, Vlad Tepes, Ivan the Terrible, Alexander the Great, and others, but was thwarted in his pursuit of the DNA of the Chinese warlord Sun Tzu by Sergeant Slaughter. Dr. Mindbender vowed to substitute Sergeant Slaughter's own DNA for the missing specimen. But first he made an all-out effort to secure the DNA of Genghis Khan. But Sergeant Slaughter, in an attempt to avenge his earlier defeat, was captured. Now, today's chapter of Arise, Serpentor, Arise.
So exciting seeing Sergeant Slaughter just getting manhandled by a bunch of robots. Yes.
When I think of Tactician,
I think of Tactician. You think of Sergeant Slaughter. So good. So we touched on this briefly in the opening. This show is completely, it's a Cobra show episode.
It's fantastic.
It's like the whole episode. G.I. Joe is barely in this episode. Yeah. Sergeant Slaughter, I realized what his acting style is like as I was reviewing this one. I really did. He's always out of breath. That's the way the real Sarge. That's the way Sarge, Mr. Slaughter, played it.
Yeah,
he was constantly out of breath every time. Yeah, I can't believe this mess hall food is so good. Like that was it. He was always out of breath.
Maybe it's from his wrestling days. He was just so used to those.
Yeah. I mean, he's because it's like he's still doing a wrestling promo. This is exciting.
Interesting story about Sergeant Slaughter and why I think that Vince McMahon forced him to do that whole program of where like he's a traitor.
Yeah.
It's because Sergeant Slaughter refused to give Vince McMahon a cut in the G.I. Joe deal.
Really?
That is what I read up on.
That's fascinating. And we've talked about that, where they made him a bad guy, and then we ended up actually going to war.
It was punishment.
And during the first Gulf War, Sergeant Slaughter was a bad guy. It was like, that's a bad look.
It was punishment.
Really? Well, good for him.
Vince McMahon?
No, good for Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh, yeah.
To not give him a cut of the Joe stuff.
Oh, yeah. Sergeant Slaughter was Sergeant Slaughter before.
Yeah.
You know? And the thing is, Sergeant Slaughter, when he started, he was a heel.
Right.
You know, he was the evil drill sergeant.
Okay.
What changed was the Iranian hostage, and so he became the symbol of America.
Is that when that happened?
He and the Iron Sheik would do shows, you know, to sell them. You know, and Iron Sheik was, you know, he was himself threatened by the Iranian.
He's the best.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
His Twitter is awesome.
Oh my God.
I don't know if that's actually him doing it though. I've heard that it's not.
But
think, either way,
I think it's his agent.
I think he endorses it though.
Yeah.
It's just so great.
I think half the time they just give him a script and then he just says it.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is.
So we're very close to seeing the culmination of Dr. Mindbender's DNA growth experiments.
I love like how they're bringing in like a coffin, like some. It's like Dracula.
It's like a big
inside.
growth tube, and inside there's. Oh, you know what else he looks like? He looks like Meatwad. That's 100% what
well, he does have the Meatwad face.
Yeah, that's 100% what this creature looks like. Meatwad. We have.
Maybe that's the secret origin of the Aqua Teen Hunger Force. They were
It could be right now for observation purposes. We have pulled out my original Serpentor.
Oh, this is so classic.
Yep. If you see the cape has been not so subtly repaired with some sewing.
You can only do what you can.
Yeah, because it
with
tore
these
at
figures.
both shoulder points. So I had my mom sew it up for me.
Yeah.
But
that's a cool mom.
Well, yeah, come on.
My mom would have
She's
said,
the
like,
best.
yeah, you know.
No,
she's a great mom.
My mom was down with G.I. Joe. She bought me all this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a allowance, but I wasn't Daddy Warbucks, you know. Probably 95% of my Joe stuff was bought by my mom.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but he looks good though, right?
Yeah.
So I still have his dagger and the snake that came with him.
Yeah.
And his airship.
That is a great way to travel.
It really is. You have your own personal airship. Come on.
Although the movie makes a good point of like why you shouldn't wear a cape and fly on a hovercraft.
Well, that's you're talking about from Incredibles.
Yeah.
But specifically, this is a. Let's look at his air skiff. This has a hovercraft wind thing that's keeping it aloft, right?
Yeah.
One, it's only in the back of it.
Oh, here's the pill. Cobra Commander is now
Cobra
telling
Commander
a scrap
just
iron.
introduced.
I'm gonna sabotage.
Yeah, he introduced some sabotage, or do you say sabotage?
Sabotage.
He introduced some sabotage into Dr. Mindbender's plan. So, we know something's going to go wrong.
I love the idea that this muck is staying still together and not leaking.
Yeah,
it's
like, just it's like dough. It's like a big wad of meat.
Yeah,
it's really what it is. But you're right. It's not juicy. There's no, it's not. It should still be in a.
You know what? Here's the thing. I think this is more realistic of a creation of an artificial life than in Superman 4 when like Lex Luthor puts like the genetic material in a little box.
You know what? First of all, it's almost the same origin from Superman 4, and secondly,
except Superman doesn't toss.
Well, wait a minute. Those DNA collectors,
yeah,
they look a little bit like that soup can that Luthor sent into the sun. You remember?
Oh, I remember. Yeah,
they don't look too far from the DNA collectors on this episode.
I wonder if the writers were somehow sharing notes.
I doubt it.
But there's Tomax and Zamos
in the Frankenstein moment. The other thing about this scene, they're not exactly operating in a clean room.
No, they're not.
Like
you would think that he's a professional.
Awfully exposed. Yeah.
It's like it's like yeah.
So when something goes wrong, spoiler alert, in this first try, I wouldn't be too surprised because you're operating, in like a really filthy environment.
Yeah, like if I was Serpentor, I would say it's like, wait, you created me in this mess?
Yeah. So The vacuum shroud. That's what. Okay, well, you know what? He did at least use a vacuum shroud on it, which is important. So Mindbender commands his creature to rise, and there he is, Meatwad. But he looks like that dude from First Family.
He looks like some.
And it is a monster, and he's choking out Dr. Mindbender. And he is a really comic booky, Kirby looking thing. And we're going to commercial with Dr. Mindbender about to be done eaten by his own petard. Today's Filecard feature is on the G.I. Joe tracker, codenamed Spirit. His file name is Charlie Ironknife, and his primary military specialty is the infantry. His secondary military specialty is social services. His birthplace is Taos, New Mexico. Spirit comes from a family so far below the poverty line that they never realized they were poor. Was a hunting guide throughout high school. He served in Southeast Asia, that would be Vietnam. Then, as a civilian, completed his education. He returned to the service for reasons inexplicable to anyone but a Native American mystic warrior. He's qualified expert in the M16, M19 11A1 auto pistol, and the Remington sniper rifle. Charlie is a shaman, a medicine man. He's not a healer, or a priest, or a witch doctor. There isn't any equivalent in our culture for what he is unless we had shrinks that could actually help people. I love Spirit. He came with the bird Freedom. He was a huge part of the first season of G.I. Joe. He was sort of on the cartoon. He was sort of a Snake Eyes surrogate. I feel like he's been underused in almost every incarnation. I'll say this about Spirit. There's certainly a couple things about his character that might be a little stereotypical. That could be up for debate, but we are dealing with a children's toy. And in that regard, he was a hero. He was pretty awesome. His gun was great. Don't even get me started on Freedom. Freedom, this huge American eagle that in the cartoon would listen to his commands and go where he needed him to go. He was great. He always had the right answer. Larry Hama used him really cool in the comic book where he was actually the human guard post at the pit. He would just sit out and meditate at night in the desert, and he was the outlook. So there was nothing else in the desert. This is when the pit was underground. There was no one else in the desert but Spirit, and he was communing with the land to see if there was any bad guys on their way. He's awesome. I'm a big fan of Charlie Ironknife. I hope he's a character that they use in one of the big screen movies. I think he'd be pretty dope. Give him a big old American eagle, like a CG eagle. That'd be great. So Spirit, Charlie Ironknife, Yahey, and we salute you. That's a good question. When the monster eats Mindbender, will he chew up the cod piece? Will he chew the cod piece? Or will he spit it out?
You know, you and Stephanie were was it Amber last week's episode? Mm-hmm. You made great comment about how he's wearing those tassels.
Oh, he's got a look, man. He's got a real solid look.
I think I've seen it in certain Brazilian movies.
Oh boy. And that's all we're gonna have to say about that. That's all I'm
gonna say.
Let's just check Julius's browser history and delete. Well, this monster is going nuts.
He's
nuts. It really does. It looks like a cross between the Man Thing and the Thing from the Fantastic Four and Meatwad.
Yeah,
it's like if the Thing and Meatwad fell in sweet, sweet love. This is what you would get.
This is what you get.
Yeah. He is also, this is funny, usually the twins, when they get attacked, it's one at a time, so they show the other twin. This guy just cuts to the chase, and he attacks both of them together.
I love it.
Yeah. Cobra Commander locks them in the room. He's such a coward.
No. Cobra Commander, you're not smart enough.
Nope. Oh, Destro. Destro is always telling the truth. He is always down with the truth with Cobra Commander.
Yeah.
He's always like, you just screwed up, and here's how you did.
But you would figure he wants to keep his job. This is his organization.
Well, no, it's not Destro. Well, you mean Cobra Commander?
Cobra Commander.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, of course he does. But then, just like a certain dictator we know, why wouldn't he just fire Mindbender?
Yeah.
Oh, because it would cause too much trouble.
But
because everyone would say, oh, you're firing him because he's getting too close to creating an emperor to supplant you. What?
Yeah.
Wonder where we're seeing that.
Yeah, but this is just even much more weirder because Mindbender is a brand new guy.
He totally is. There's a line in this episode. It's funny you mentioned that. There is a line in this episode where he says something like, I've had enough of this or whatever. And I'm thinking, dude, you just joined. You've had enough of this?
Yeah.
These guys have been through this for 50-some episodes.
The secret origin of Dr. Mindbender, because you were talking about how he was a dentist. He was a dentist. He invented this this machine that was supposed to like the whole. It was a weird concept. It was a machine that was supposed to numb your senses. So like when you get surgery,
right,
it would
and it ended up altered. It altered
his
brainwaves.
So Dr. Mindbender is
the
evil version.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Although with a name like Mindbender.
Well, I wonder if that's his God-given name.
I think it is.
That's a little. Hey, honey.
He looks like a mind bender.
Honey, I think we maybe should change our name before we bestow
Oh, here it is. Here's the what is this new chopper called?
Well, that's the Swamp Fire. That's the Dreadnought Swamp Fire. But the Joe chopper, that's the Tomahawk, which is an amazing toy. But the Swamp Fire was cool too.
Yeah.
Swamp Fire gave them some versatility. It was a little too neon green for my taste, but it
was
a cool
the start
toy.
of the neon green.
Now, it's funny. So we are halfway into the second halfway into the second commercial break, and this is only like the second scene that actually has G.I. Joes in it.
Yeah, I love it. It's pure action. It's just
all
pure
Cobra action.
Although, what is a guy whose specialty is in the Arctic
Frostbite? I was just
doing
going to point that out
in a swamp infested,
because he was a new character that they had to sell.
Of course,
because Frostbite was new, so they had to sell him. Scrap Iron shows up, which we were talking a little bit off mic about this, Cardinalson and podcasting, but we did it. Scrap Iron kind of fills the role of Major Blood.
Yeah,
like he really replaces how they had Major Blood playing in the first.
He doesn't
season.
Show up as much.
I don't.
Until the movie, I think he's.
Was he in the movie?
I think he was in the movie.
Yeah, but he definitely. I mean, Major Blood took the back seat in the first season. Period.
Yeah.
Now there's hardly going to be any room for Major Blood in this season if he shows up at all.
You know what? He got fired.
But Scrap Iron totally takes his place.
I think he got fired when Cobra Commander was reading his poetry.
He did in the comic books.
Well, yeah.
Well, no, he did. Like they wrote that the reason he dropped out of the scene.
Oh, he got fired?
He got fired. Like he went off on his own, and then they eventually brought him back. I think with like the Devil's Due stuff is when they.
Okay, yeah.
But they said like he had fallen like out of favor with Cobra Commander, so he stopped
probably
hiring him because he was a mercenary.
Probably read his poetry.
Oh my God!
No, there's a great.
Oh, I know his
poetry.
Like a poet.
Baroness like makes fun of his poetry.
Oh yeah, he's a poet. So Sergeant Slaughter, he escaped from the compound, and he is having a field day whipping on some vipers. However,
the monster is having.
He doesn't know the monster's out there. He just now met the monster.
Well, so in a way, technically, that's Sergeant Slaughter's son. Because it's from his DNA.
It kind of is. You're kind of right.
So he's fighting his own son.
Okay, real quick. He just called him Poindexter, which is a nerd slur.
Yeah.
Right?
It's Sergeant Slaughter. He'll just say...
And I'm going to say, this monster, furthest thing from a Poindexter.
Yeah.
So we're going to go into commercial pondering how Poindexter is this monster.
There it is, man. Cobra Island. And in the Phantom, we're invisible to their radar. Nobody beats G.I. Joe. It's an attack. There's nothing on the radar. Call up the box, you fool! Over the land and deep down below, Cobra got an eye out below. The boat may control the beaches, but the rolling thunder rules the land. Yo, Joe! Nobody beats G.I. Joe, the real American hero. Will Cobra Island be Cobra's last stand? Find out in Marvel Comics.
Now back to G.I. Joe.
Okay, Poindexter.
Yeah, with Poindexter being an 80s slur to make fun of a nerd.
Yeah.
That, the quote cool guys used, because you're don't be a Poindexter, right?
Yeah.
How does this creature personify the concept of Poindexter?
You just let it go because it's Sergeant Slaughter saying it.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Oh, that's Sergeant Slaughter's favorite move, the overtoss slam.
He done just broke that monster's neck.
Oh, that was
what
he
did.
And look at how he's like holding the monster.
Because that monster's dead, and that monster just decayed into. It's a little reminiscent of the synthoids that Cobra used in multiple episodes, where they would make most specifically the Memories of Mara episode, where Shipwreck was living in the town and everyone was
my
a synthoid.
Personal favorite episode.
Such a good episode.
That is where you see Cobra really truly evil.
So good. So this is a little bit of synthoid callback. So I wouldn't be surprised if they use some of that technology to just do this period.
Yeah.
But so that monster, Muck Monster, he devolved into nothingness, and now Slaughter does get recaptured by Cobra.
Yeah. Although,
But he's not going down without a fight.
The store is Creeps 1. Slaughter nothing.
Or maybe he's not.
No, he got captured. He got captured.
Oh, he got captured.
Yeah.
I love it. Creeps 1, Slaughter
You know,
nothing.
my friend Nas, back in high school, we were talking about Sergeant Slaughter, and it's like they really do compliment Sergeant Slaughter in this cartoon because, like, if you see him in real life, it's like even back then when, like, you know, when he was performing as a wrestler, nothing.
Oh, yeah. No, he
like-
was one of those old school, just built stocky.
Yeah.
Not muscular, not super strong, like not
He had a
really
gut.
athletic. Oh, yeah. He definitely was that kind of
Yeah.
wrestler. But there was something to be said for that, you know? Like, that was fun,
Yeah.
you know, back in the day. Because he was still bigger than normal.
Oh, yeah.
There was a time, speaking of, like, wrestlers and real people coming into GHO, the Chicago Bears had William the Refrigerator Perry,
Yeah.
right? And he became a Joe member. He was considered enormous. And you look at him now and you're like, yeah, obviously he was a fat dude. He wouldn't be able to play today in the NFL.
No.
At
Oh,
that
he's
size.
small.
Yeah.
No.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Now he actually was a really talented ball player.
Well, it's like a Dick Butkus and all those guys
Right.
from like the late '60s and early '70s. There's no way.
Yeah, they're just you look at their bodies and you're just like, oh, okay, but they were
guys.
intense and they
What's
played good ball.
happening?
Yeah.
So I think that's what
I was
Sergeant
wondering
Slaughter
if
was,
I
you
could
know?
use your
This is
phone.
fun.
But you know what's amazing?
They're sending Lifeline in to distract the Vipers.
Soldiers, like during World War II, like when you think it's like, oh, they're not as good shape. No, they were in great shape. If you see some of those old newsreels,
yeah.
they were.
Oh,
They could
sure.
do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, I think people were in better shape then, but not when I say better shape. I mean like now,
Super
like
muscular.
that's super ripped out, super cut. Because now,
Oh, here- the
now
G.I.
when you
Joe-
see wrestlers,
G.I.
they're
Joe
more
is-
bodybuilders.
G.I. Joe's just infiltrated.
Oh yeah,
Lifeline, the pacifist, which
Yeah.
I wonder is like how a pacifist joins up the top.
and I think Lifeline had a holster on his figure. I think he had a gun holster.
Yeah, that's like a ridiculous thing.
Yeah.
Now in the toy, did they say he was a pacifist?
Yeah, he
also?
was. Yeah, it's on his card. Yeah, it's on his card. So it was definitely always a part of, at least post-plastic. It was always a part of it. So I have a feeling they didn't know he was
Now
going to be
is that a
pacifist when
is
they
that a
designed him.
lightsaber Mindbender is holding?
It's either a lightsaber or a magic wand.
I'm hoping it's either that because with the way he's dressed up, I don't, you know.
Well, they put Sergeant Slaughter's DNA in there, which this time when they took the DNA from all the dead bodies like disappeared.
Yeah.
They got destroyed. Sergeant Slaughter, no ill effects.
No.
Cobra Commander's chastising him.
Here's a bit of a tidbit for those of you who don't know. In the comic book, the living specimen they
It's
used
not Sergeant Slaughter.
It's not Sergeant Slaughter.
It is
Storm Shadow.
Yes, and that
because
was
he's the perfect soldier.
Because and that was the mechanism that. Well, no. He accidentally fell in. It wasn't used.
No, I think they
Oh no!
they
wait,
know.
no, I'm sorry. No.
He was
totally
dead.
right. Yeah, he was dead.
He was. Yeah.
It was the mechanism they used to revive him.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Because that's how they brought him back to life.
Okay.
That's what it was.
No, they didn't use the ninja. The comic books just read the comic books. boys and girls.
No. He really was dead. He was a dead body.
Yeah.
But when they dumped him into the vat, that revived
Okay.
him. And he came to life. He woke up on Cobra Island after
Yeah.
the assault on Cobra Island, and he was like, "Where am I? What am I doing?" Yeah, that kind of a thing.
Cobra Commander is making a deal with Sergeant Slaughter.
Yep.
He's gonna get Sergeant Slaughter
Gonna
out,
free Sarge.
destroy the creation of Serpentor, and
Yeah. So basically, So Cobra Commander is responsible for Sarge escaping, and they're waiting for the Frankenstein-like experiment to revive their second, hopefully successful attempt.
Why don't you
Tomax and Zamox.
go suck eggs?
Go suck eggs, Sergeant Slaughter. Now he's breaking.
Now we know
the vats
Now we know why Serpentor is not a good leader.
because
He has Sergeant Slaughter's tactical genius.
Yeah, but he screwed up. Yeah, he screwed it up. So that's the only reason. That's the only reason that Cobra did not go on to dominate the planet is because right there, Sergeant Slaughter broke his own DNA bank.
And then we would all be under the
thumb,
heel of
the
Cobra.
heel, the boot heel of Serpentor. This I command.
Here's a question I always wondered.
He's given Destro like a
Oh my
wedgie,
God.
like a noogie wedgie.
the noogie is like, did I see this in high school?
Yeah, right.
Oh, so you see?
Oh,
He
you just done dented his hat.
yeah.
That's great.
He headbutts Scrap
Knocks
Iron.
out Scrap Iron with a headbutt. So good.
Never mess with a wrestler. They're mean.
No, they are. And there's the title of the show. Arise, Serpentor, Arise. Arise, most powerful one, Arise.
Rise!
And will we get it? I don't know. Is it gonna work?
Well,
it's not working so far.
Cobra Commander's loving it.
Bender.
I would call him Gender Bender with the way he's dressed up.
Yeah, pretty much. Wait, real quick though. Look at Mindbender standing right next to Sergeant Slaughter.
He's as
they're
muscular.
the negative. They're the negative. They're the inverse. Look at them.
Yeah.
The inverse parts of their flesh are showing.
Oh my god. Oh yeah.
It's like someone drew one of them and then they,
I love the
holy cow,
sound of
this is
spirits.
so exciting.
Born to rule,
Let's listen.
destined to conquer. Let those who fear me follow me. Let those who oppose me die. For I am Serpentor, and this I command.
Dick Gautier. The introduction
good.
of Dick Gautier
Tune
as
in tomorrow
Serpentor.
when the wily Serpentor
happens tomorrow.
assumes command of Cobra. And Cobra Commander plots to regain control of his organization. Then the Joes hurl themselves into combat against Serpentor to save Washington, D.C. All in the next exciting episode of Arise, Serpentor, Arise.
Oh my God!
It's the all.
Will return after
So
these messages.
good.
It's all Serpentor hour.
It is. The whole episode is Cobra and Joe. It's all Cobra.
It's a great episode
Yeah,
because it's just pure, like, you know, it again, it's just Cobra. You go through this machination. Cobra Commander wants to, like, just do away with this whole plot to get that he would lose his job.
Yeah, it's just all internal Cobra politics is what we just watched.
But you know what? Like, he's dealt with this before with the others, like from Baroness and the Corsican twins.
Well, yeah, but they were never a credible threat because those guys are goofy. You know what I mean? Like he knows the weakness. He knows the weakness of all the other characters, right? He knows like where the bodies are buried, whatever. Here he's dealing with a brand new, seemingly perfect contender to the throne.
Well, here's the thing. How did Mindbender get a job for Cobra? And
Well,
like,
he brought the bats to Cobra.
he
Yeah,
created-
I think it's in the comic books. They don't touch on it in the show, but
Wow,
he brings. Oh yeah, he's
and
a smart dude.
He was a dentist, and he creates
Yeah.
he creates
brings-
he creates these robots.
He brings the battle android trooper
Whoa.
technology to Cobra, so that's what got him his job. I've never made fun of mine. I mean, we're teasing him on the show. I always liked him. I always thought Dr. Mindbender was pretty cool as a toy. He's dressed ridiculous, but
the
stuff
codpiece and the tassel.
Yeah, right. But the stuff he does, the stuff he's up to, is like sinister and just wicked. But
It's a great
Julius, I'm so
episode.
happy to have you on this episode.
I'm happy to be here. I love this episode.
This was great. This was a lot of fun.
I love the ending. Serpentor rises and says, "This I command."
Totally, man. And you're just like, and he looks like he's like Steve Rogers ripped up when he just got out of the super soldier serum. You know, like that's what it was like.
Who
Like
would
it was
win?
like Chris Evans busting out
You know
and be like,
what?
ah.
Good question. Here's a question: who would win, Serpentor or Captain America?
It's a great question because ostensibly they're both the ultimate soldier,
Yeah.
the ultimate tactician, and one's evil, one's good.
Perfect matchup.
It would be a really good matchup.
I'm surprised they
actually.
never did like a Marvel G.I. Joe crossover because they've done Marvel Transformers.
Yeah. Well, I was saying a few episodes back, and no one out there, listeners, no one took me up on this. I want to see a Snake Eyes showdown with
Batman?
Wolverine
Oh, Wolverine.
is what I want to see. I want to see Snake Eyes and Wolverine going at it, and
I would-
yeah, that's what I want to see.
you know
That'd
what?
be amazing.
You know what? You have to arm Snake Eyes with with adamantium blades.
Well, he would have. Yeah, he would.
He has to have the adamantium blades.
But he would do all those crazy cuts where like he cuts them, and Wolverine doesn't even know he's cut, and then his arm just falls off, and he has to grow it back.
Can adamantium cut through adamantium?
Well, if Snake Eyes wields it, I don't know. Hey, here's a good listen. So this show is coming out the final weeks of May, and I'm gonna hey Joe and Joe listeners, guess what I saw? I saw the movie Wonder Woman. Boom! We saw a sneak preview of it.
How was that movie?
It's amazing. Everyone go out and see it. Everyone with an earshot go out
Was
and
it
see it.
unlike the other DC movies?
It is.
Because
Yes.
you've seen my criticisms.
Yeah, it's unlike the other DC movies because it's really, really good. It's so good.
No,
but one of the moments.
No Snyderism.
No, one of the moments she has is she's this take place during World War I. And
Yeah.
There's a whole room full of generals and
That's
colonels and
that's
stuff.
inventive. I would have thought they would have stuck
Yeah,
with the World
there's
War
a whole
II.
room full of colonels and generals and stuff. And Wonder Woman gets in this guy's face and she goes, "Where I come from, the generals are on the front line with their soldiers getting shot at. You're no general, blah, blah, blah." That's what Serpentor does.
Yeah.
That's 100% what Serpentor does.
Napoleon, like
Short.
he did inspire. Like he was there in the front line.
I saw it in Bill and Ted's. He went down the water
Yeah.
slide.
And
He
like-
went down the water slide. He did not say, "You go down the water slide first."
He
There. said, "I'm going down the water
That's
slide
why.
first."
That's
what
why when
Napoleon
he
did.
came back from Elba, they like by this time they brought back the monarchy, but they said, you know what? No, we want to follow you.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
he was the original Serpentor.
Awesome.
And imagine
he's
the
a part
Burb-
of
yeah.
He's a part of Serpentor. He's one of the
Yeah.
guys. They got his. They took his
You know,
DNA.
you know what? Here's the thing about like last week's episode. Where were the Chinese army when they tried to take Sun Tzu's?
They were too busy. They were too busy running people over in Tiananmen Square.
Oh, that's right. It's the 80s.
Yeah. Well, Julius, thank you so much for being on Joe and Joe.
I feel very honored being here.
I'm
Thank
so glad
you,
we
Joe.
finally got around to it. I'm really happy to have you on. This was a
I
great
really
episode.
do love this episode. We didn't really touch upon a whole lot of it as much.
Excuse me, are you critiquing?
I would
critiquing the quality of my show.
No,
as
I'm
you're on the
I'm
show?
critiquing myself. I'm critiquing myself.
I think we touched on it quite a bit.
We did?
Yeah. Are you
All
kidding
right.
me?
I think I need to watch it again.
Well, then you know what? The episode drops every Wednesday, so tune in and watch it again and record
I think I
your own
will. I'm
commentary.
going to talk to myself.
So thank you very much.
I love the show.
Thank
Joe
you.
on Joe, thank you.
Thank you very much, listeners. I really, really, really appreciate it. And the show's growing every week. Thank you for sharing. That means you guys are out there sharing it with your friends and telling people, because I certainly don't have any marketing budget, Julius. So that means people are telling people.
That's
and
good.
I love it. It's like the opposite of Fight Club. The only rule of Joe and Joe is tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
Find me on Facebook, Joe and Joe Pod, Gmail, Twitter, all that stuff. And remember, next week, part 5, we get to the big culmination. I'm so
The
excited.
Battle of Washington, D.C.
And now you, Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.
I love this. Thank you.